right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the KG Flow. This week I have my old companion pal slash leader, First Lieutenant Andrew Soto. Andrew, say what's up.
Hey everybody, thanks for having me on.
So me and Andrew Soto here, or sir, as if I was still in, was what I had to say. We first met back at 2 Mid Comstrat, deployed together back in 2019, and we got stuck during the COVID-19 pandemic. What a time that was. Andrew, just give a little background on yourself, and then go from there.
Sure. So as Kenny already said, my name is Andrew Soto. I joined the Marine Corps back in 2004. I'm going to hit my 19-year mark next month in April. So it's crazy how fast the time flies by, but 19 years gone by in a flash. I started out as a F-18 electrician. I was stationed down in Beaufort, South Carolina, then Virginia Beach and Miramar, California. I got picked up for the commissioning program and commissioned as a lieutenant in January of 2018. I went to school in San Diego since I was already down there at San Diego State. And then from there, I went to TBS for 7 months of the most fun I've ever had in my life. Told Kenny about it probably once or twice while we were deployed. And from there, I met Kenny at the 2MIG Comstrat in Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. We deployed to Morone, Spain with the SP MAGTF Crisis Response Africa in September of 19. Had a good time down there in Spain. We did some traveling, got to go around Europe a little bit, down to Africa a couple times. And then the COVID pandemic hit on the same month that we were supposed to go home. So
Yep.
we were extended 3 months and ended up getting home in late May or early June of 2020. I've been down there ever since then. I'm about to PCS or move this summer. I got orders down to Paris Island to be a series commander at boot camp, back where it all started.
Mm.
Except I was a West Coast guy, so it'll actually be back to where it all started in the sense that that's where I started my career in Beaufort, South Carolina. So pretty excited about that. I got a couple of kids, about to hit our 13-year mark, married, our 13th year anniversary. Actually, in a couple of weeks, I've got to get her something or think of something to do. And and yeah, that's probably the biggest talking points.
All right, yeah. So glad you gave us like the gist of it. You know what's funny, dude? Like, I hate to admit this, but even though you're like almost 20 in the military, you still got that. You age like fine wine. So my a couple of my friends who are girls, look at my old photos of me and you, and they're like, "Who's that?" And I'm like, God,
Yeah,
like,
I'm sure they do. What can I say?
and I'm
You know,
like, what? What? What's the secret?
the secret to not letting yourself age in the military is to not stress out over the little things. Just kind of like go with the flow, let it roll off your back. Uh, Too many times I had met guys that at 30 years old looked like they were 40 or 45. But they were always freaking out about every little thing that at the end of the day is it's not a big deal. Like you'll be back tomorrow to fix whatever went wrong the day before. You know, that's you always have another opportunity to make things right if things don't go the way as planned, and they never go the way that you plan them initially. Things are
Okay,
always going to take a left turn. That's why they always say semper gumby. You know, you got to be flexible.
where were you to say all this when I was like around like toxic and staff NCOs, bro? What was this?
Well, I feel like I did a pretty good job of protecting you from toxic staff NTOs. I think we were
I,
pretty fortunate though. We didn't really have, especially in deployment, like it was basically just you and me. You didn't have to really deal with any staff NCOs
no, yeah, I
except
could have.
for
You did hook me up. You did took care of me. That's why I'm just like, damn, this. That's why I don't know. Like if I stayed in, if I was still in, I feel like one day, that's why we were called the father son duo right here.
the dynamic duo. Well, you could always, you know, are you done with school yet? Have you finished college? When you finish college?
Hopefully end of this year, I should get my master's and I'll be done with Rutgers and school overall.
Come
Um,
back in, man. A master's degree, second lieutenant, you'd be the hottest thing.
So I know I haven't told you this, but I'm keeping my options open. Like I know I still have, I'm still under IR until to July 2024. If for some reason like things are kind of bad, like I don't get like a good job in the sports business industry, like I might go back in. Hands down, I'm going back in as an officer. I'm not going back as enlisted because hell no, I don't want to be reservist sergeant. You know, no offense to all the enlisted scum out there, as
We
some
can
people
say that
said.
we were both enlisted at one point. We know how it is.
But yeah,
I don't know though.
that
You're looking a little soft, man. Are you sure you can pass the PFT and the CFT and make it
look,
through
yeah,
OCS, TVS?
yeah. I will admit, since I've been out, I've kind of been slacking a little bit on my fitness, but I still go to the gym, like mostly every day. And I've been good at basketball, but like I will come down there and I will play 1v1 you and I will win.
Okay, so
Keep my receipts.
yeah,
But I have
before you start talking up your game, maybe you should tell your listeners what the overall record is or what happened the last time you and I played one on one.
because that was two
Keeping
years
in
ago.
mind that I'm
Um,
like what 10 years older than you, something like that.
Listen, yeah, basketball wasn't my best sport, but I have gone so much better since then. And me and my team actually made the playoffs, and we were one round away from the championship. So goes to
Just like an
show,
intramural thing.
yeah, but goes to show how far I've come. So
Hmm. Well, hey, if you can beat me this next time, you probably should because I haven't had a chance to play very much. Especially they shut down the gym for like 2 years. You couldn't play basketball. It was ridiculous.
right, yeah, damn. All right, so I guess we can go over our first topic, Andrew. Which is the recruiting crisis, as they say in the military, not just the Marine Corps. I want to know like so I've seen like all over like social media, TikTok, blah blah blah, and I had like a little glimpse of it right before I got out because I was stationed in Quantico at recruiting command. They were struggling. It was like they were like they could see like the inside of it, like the struggling was going to come when I was there. Like, what's your take on that? Like, do you think if we continue down this path, like, it's going to get worse? You think it might turn around? Is it going to get better? Like, what do you got?
Well, recruiting and retention is definitely at the forefront of the Marine Corps' minds, and they've really focused on it through one of the commandant's big priorities over the last year or so, talent management 2030. Have you heard about that, or have you read up on it at all?
Some of it, but not really.
Well, right before you got out, I think that he had already put out Force Design 2030, and it was all about how the Marine Corps was going to adapt with the times and change to meet our biggest challengers, which is mostly coming from the Far East. China is like our biggest challenger, right? And so some of the moves that he was going to do to be able to combat that was to get rid of some of our legacy capabilities, some of our heavy hitters like our tanks and our snipers. And maybe he was also going to cut back on the amount of artillery we have, change the numbers of active squadrons or the amount of planes in certain squadrons. Just a lot of things to uh, confront the challenge of meeting an adversary like China, where it's not going to be like in a flat, open desert space where we had been focused for the last 20 years, but more in the littoral sense, where it was going to be uh, kind of like if you think back to World War II and the island hopping campaign, he wants to have smaller teams of Marines that are more mobile, that leave less of a heavy footprint, that require logistical, um, less logistical capability
Hmm.
to have these smaller teams of Marines be able to basically support themselves and be more mobile and be able to hit targets from farther away while making a smaller target ourselves. So that was, in a nutshell, Force Design 2030. After that, he put out Talent Management 2030, the big focus on recruiting and retention, especially on retention. He wants to be able to hang on to Marines that he already has, that have already been trained, that have already been invested in, that already have experience, and become a more mature force in a sense. So focusing more on getting that first term corporal or sergeant to reenlist. and giving them the option of choosing what kind of orders they want to have, maybe allowing them to lateral move into a different MOS, a different job, um, so that we can maintain our numbers while not having to focus quite as heavily on recruiting, which obviously we want to do. Recruiting is always going to be a very important part of maintaining the Marine Corps' numbers where we want them. As to why recruiting is down across the forces, there's a lot of things. Um,
Right. So
Number
I would,
one, probably
yeah. So
go ahead.
I was gonna say like, yeah, I think as more we go into peacetime and it's just, um, I think like obviously the new generations like Gen Z and everything like that I think they're becoming more aware and like I said this in my last episode where like social media has played a huge impact on it is where like I think they see the military as like, why do I want to join the military when it's like, it's from my perspective, I've been hearing things like it's like super woke now. Like, why do I want to go out there and like, be in the trenches or, go die? Like, or like there's like way better things like out there. That's what I'm saying. Like I hate to say this, but it's like kind of like a little bit true. Like, and again, it's just my opinion, my perspective, but like I feel like this Gen Z and newer generations are just gonna be like soft, just a little like compared to like my time and like back in like like around 9/11 and all that. So that I think that's why the recruiting crisis is like such a like it was like a big topic like the past like year and a half. So
Well, it's actually interesting you bring up Gen Z. I just watched the podcast today. It's a Barstool Sports podcast, and I can't remember the name of it, but it's military focused.
mhm,
And the guy conducting the interview was a Marine. He was an infantry guy. I think he was a staff sergeant by the time he got out. He got injured on a deployment or something. But he sat down with the Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps, Sergeant Major Black, and he was kind of asking that same question: if the military was softer at this point than when he first came in, or what was the biggest difference in it from when he first came in. And Sergeant Major, essentially said that when he was a young Lance Corporal, he first came in 1988 and deployed in the Gulf War in 1991. But he said that he had staff NCOs or senior enlisted guys that had been around since Vietnam saying the same thing about his generation of Marines.
mhm,
And I've probably said something to that effect too when I was messing around with you on deployment about how today's Marines were a far cry from the hardcore hard chargers like me when I came in, back in 2004. And what he was getting at was that times change and the culture changes, but with the standards of the Marine Corps is always going to be as effective and lethal as it ever was before. And maybe with the changes that force design brings, even more so going into the future. 'Cause the Marine Corps will always adapt to the times, but it's always going to be, the nation's premier 9/11 force. So going back to about the recruiting crisis, like you were getting at also with Gen Z, the fact of the matter is that I think it's something like 75% of young Americans today don't qualify for military service for a number of reasons, whether
mhm,
it's their mental health or their physical fitness. Maybe it's a drug record or a criminal past. A lot of things that they've done already by the time they're eligible to join that precludes them from service. 75% right off the bat of 18 to 26-year-olds, let's say, are not eligible to join. Of that remaining uh, number of people that are eligible to join, only 10% say they would actually consider military service. And so I guess the Marine Corps and all the services as a whole have to ask themselves, why is that? Why aren't people as likely to join now? Some people say, the job market right now is as strong as it's ever been. There's a lot of opportunity out there, especially after the pandemic, a lot of opportunity to work from home, remote or whatever, that's keeping people from joining. Um, Going back to the pandemic, I mean, that changed kind of things forever. So maybe there's also a number of people, as you know, that I went through a situation like this that were hesitant to join or are hesitant to join because of, and I kind of hate to go here already, but the vaccine requirement, right? The COVID-19 vaccine
Yes,
requirement.
for those, yeah, for those who don't know, First Lieutenant Soto here. So it's been you were one of those who did not want to take the vaccine at all because you have obviously your sources and your beliefs, and you have your reasons why you didn't want to take it. But thankfully, like I was happy for you and your family that you were able to stay in, fought through the whole process. I bet that was a hassle. But yeah, like that was like obviously a huge controversy when I was still in. And yeah, I mean, I applaud you for like at least like sticking to your like you stood up for what you thought was right. And we talked about this like I think last time I saw you. Um just I think that's just like one of the attributes to your leadership because like you didn't like fault like you thought it was like ethically wrong and you stuck to it. And yeah, and you're good now, like you're all good with I'm assuming.
Well, essentially, yeah. So, as you know, I had to go through kind of like an ad set process where I had to go to like a board, and my future was kind of in the hands of the people that were on the panel to decide whether or not I should be allowed to stay or not. And they gave,
They read my letter and they were like, damn, we gotta keep him.
I'm sure that had something to do with it. Yeah. But after that, I was recommended for retention. And then in August of last year, the injunction from the Marine Corps came down. So that kind of halted any separations up to that point. And then, in December, Congress passed the National Defense Authorization Act. And part of that was rescinding the vaccine mandate for all of the armed forces, which the Secretary of Defense sent out a letter I think it was January 10th of this year, rescinding that mandate. And then the Marine Corps put out a memorandum a couple of weeks later. So essentially, once I got orders to Parris Island, like I knew I was good, I got a letter from the CG saying that all of or not from the CG, maybe it was from the Commandant's SJA, the Staff Judge Advocate, essentially saying that any kind of negative paperwork against me was being dropped and the case was now considered closed. So I guess this one thing I'm still waiting on is the promotion that I was supposed to get in May of last year. I'm still waiting for that to come through. So that's been kind of annoying. But yeah, I think the vaccine mandate and the way they pushed it without and the message that we got was, hey, it's a great thing, it's safe and effective. We should all get it for readiness purposes and all these kinds of things. When nobody really knew what it was or what kind of uh, effects it was going to have on the force because it hadn't been put through the proper testing yet. It hadn't been
Right,
studied yet. It hadn't been evaluated yet. And
right,
so to me, when I heard that and them saying that before it was even required, it just made me like pause and think like, how can you know that when there's been no long-term studies on this? And over the last couple of years, we've seen now, well, hey, it wasn't so good at stopping it. It wasn't good at preventing transmission. Maybe there's all these secondary side effects, which there's plenty of evidence of. If people actually want to believe it or not, it's kind of on up to them. But so much has come out since then that made it seem like maybe it wasn't such a great idea after all.
right.
And
So
the biggest portion of the population that didn't want to get it happens to be the largest pool that the Marine Corps and the armed forces in general draws from, which are young people from from the South, from the southeastern states, the Bible Belt, if you will. They were the ones that were most hesitant to get it, and also the ones that are most likely to join. Those country boys and girls that grow up shooting, rifles and BB guns and working outside. Like those are the ones that kind of got turned off by it, I think.
gotcha. All right. And I just want everybody to know that like this like so you would say you are in your political view a Republican, correct?
I'm a conservative, yeah.
Or conservative, yeah. So and
Republican, but also libertarian. And that was another big issue for me with this mandate.
gotcha.
I didn't think that it was right for them to put an experimental drug into my body against my choice with ingredients that don't fall in line with my, religious beliefs.
No,
And
yep, I
and the
gotcha.
fact that yeah, I know, but just so people can have an understanding of where I was coming from. The very first amendment of the Constitution protects freedom of speech, but it also protects your freedom to practice your religion the way you see fit. And when you read the First Amendment, that freedom of religion is listed before the freedom of speech. So that was the most important thing at the forefront of our forefathers' minds, was protecting that liberty to be able to practice your religion the way you see fit, and to be able to maintain your liberty of conscience. So for me, it was a freedom thing, it was a religious thing, it was a scientific thing. There's just too many things that when this whole thing came out, I was like, that doesn't align with anything that I believe in, or that I stand up for,
Right.
especially as an officer, where you put up your right hand and you take that oath to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States. Like,
Yeah,
if I'm not doing that, if I'm not speaking up,
I
then
just
I'm not
gotta
doing my job as an
I just
officer.
gotta say I miss all this like this whole your whole like speech about you don't think about becoming like a politician after you get out? I think you should.
I don't think I would be a good politician, because politicians, in large part, are bought and paid for by large corporations like pharmaceutical corporations. So I don't think I'd be a good fit there.
I hear you. All right. But no, I was just saying how like, you got I just wanted to put in perspective that even though you are like, your side of the whole politics spectrum, and my side, like I'm, I call like we had these arguments and discussions back when we were deployed, like I'm Democrat and whatever. And even though we disagree on some things, I just always love with our professional relationship that me and you can just like be like, all right, you see your thing, I got my thing, but at the end, I got your back, you got my back, and we're still like work together. We were like you said, we're a dynamic duo on that deployment. And I'm just glad, I'm happy, glad to, even though there's some things I disagree with you, still happy that you're still one of the close people that I work with, as my friends, my life impacted me forever. So just so like my message like to people out there is like, even though there's like some people you disagree with, you argue, blah blah blah, just can you just like forget about that for one freaking second and just cooperate, like work, like that's the point. So that was my 2 cents.
No, yeah, for sure. And like you said, like, we might disagree on some social issues, or the best way to take care of certain, things that are at the forefront of people's minds, whether it be homelessness or racism, or whatever the case. Like, at the end of the day, we're still human beings, and we want to be able to live and work and get along with each other and not be at each other's throats. And
Yeah.
so,
Hmm.
setting aside like the talking points and the themes and messages of whatever issue it is we're talking about, at the end of the day, we still got to treat each other with respect. Even if your ideas or my ideas don't jive together, we're still boys. We're still gonna work hard and get done what we need to get done.
Mm.
Accomplish the mission, as they say. And it's always
Yeah.
good to have those things to talk about at the end of the day, when there's nothing else to do.
Oh man, yeah. That's why you were one of the best leaders I've ever had when I was in the Marine Corps. Just again blessed that I had you. Um, yeah. So just like going off like a little bit now from the whole serious topic. Uh, how about them Chiefs though?
Yeah, well, I've been trying to tell you since I met you back in 2019. Uh, the NFL is basically going to be the Chiefs' doormat until Patrick Mahomes decides that he wants to call it a career. You asked me earlier whether or not I was nervous during the Super Bowl. And I mean, honestly, not really. As long as we got Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce and Andy Reid, I don't really think there's any kind of deficit that is too big for them to, overcome.
The Dolphins just
And
got Jalen Ramsey, right?
that's great. I've go back to last year and look at all the times Jalen Ramsey got cooked. He got cooked, especially even against Kansas City. That boy got cooked.
He still made
He's a
all
great
he still
corner.
made all pro.
Yeah, that's great. But who's your quarterback?
A quarterback who has had problems.
Quarterback
Tua,
who you
Tua,
don't know if he's gonna.
Tua was in the MVP conversation right next to your boy Pat. He was there.
The only reason Tua was ever in the MVP conversation, or Josh Allen was ever in the MVP conversation, is because nobody wants. Patrick Mahomes is like old news now. They want the next new thing. That's why they were in such a rush to give it to Lamar Jackson a couple years ago. Granted, Lamar Jackson had a great season, but now he can't even get a team to sign him. Nobody wants to sign him. Patrick Mahomes is the MVP. He was the MVP the year that he won it. Probably should have been the MVP last year. He set a record this year for most yards ever in a season, beating Drew Brees' old record. He's the GOAT. Like, I'm sorry. He is the GOAT. Brady is gone. Patrick Mahomes is the king of the NFL. And until somebody proves otherwise, that's just the way it's got to be, you know.
All right,
And
all
I
right.
and I like Joe Burrow. I like Justin Herbert. The AFC is, I think Aaron Rodgers is going to be on the Jets now. So there's another little
Oh
obstacle
God,
for the
that's a whole
Dolphins to
nother,
overcome
yeah.
next year. Yeah. Uh, who Jimmy G just came to the Raiders. Russell Wilson is burned out. Like, I don't know what's going on with Russell. Like, it's Mahomes, and then a rung below him is Burrow, and then a rung below him is like everybody else.
All right, all right. We hear you. We hear you. You're a big Chiefs
Although
fan. We
although
got you.
yeah, although Hurts, I mean, Hurts surprised me. Hurts was legit in that Super Bowl. The Eagles could have won that game. Their defense didn't stop Kansas City one time in the second half, unfortunately for them. And Chiefs scored on every single possession in the second half, which was too much for them to overcome. But Hurts played his butt off. He could have definitely won that game.
Do you know that I put money on the game and I betted that I got the Chiefs spread, so you're welcome.
Well,
Yeah.
no, you're welcome. I'm sure you were thinking back, what would Andrew do in this situation?
Put the
You would bet
money.
Chiefs.
Yeah, okay.
That's the safest bet you can make right now in sports.
Hey, they should have won what? They should have been 4 or 5 Super Bowls in because you had they lost to the Patriots and you lost to Tampa. So it's still two.
Well, the loss
So
of the Patriot, I hate to bring this up, but D Ford jumped offside in that loss of the Patriots. Otherwise, Brady had thrown a pick on that same play, and that game would have been over. Chiefs would have won that Super Bowl against the Rams. Against the Bucks a couple years ago, the entire offensive line was injured, so there's not much you can do with that. Mahomes still
mm,
played his butt off, but he needed like a little bit of help. He had I don't remember how many plays where he hit receivers in the hands or Tyreek Hill in the helmet in the end zone, and nobody could catch a ball. So that was a wash. And then the one game that he did not play well was that AFC Championship against the Bengals a couple of years ago. He had that terrible second half, and couldn't even get over the Bengals in the regular season either until
mm,
finally the AFC Championship this last
not
year.
not looking like the
But if
goat
I were
now,
if I were
huh?
gonna bet $100 today who's gonna win Super Bowl 58, I'm gonna bet Kansas City.
Mm. Yeah, I had to throw in the greatness, but then also the flaws over the years too. The great Kansas City Chiefs.
Well, when you were the champ, when you were the undeniable best team in the league, you're always going to get everybody's best shot. Everybody treats you as their Super Bowl because most other teams just don't have a realistic shot of making it there.
Mm, facts. Yeah. How about them Giants though too? My second favorite team.
Yeah, I saw they signed Darren Waller and paid Daniel Jones $40 million a year.
Yeah,
That
I know.
I don't know how that's going to work out for them. Good, best of luck to the Giants.
Hey, they started winning once I started working for them, so like a good luck charm. I don't know.
I mean, Brian Dable is a great head coach. He's also a former Kansas City coach, so he probably got a little bit of that, rubbed off on him before he went to Buffalo and New York. But yeah,
Probably
I think for $40 million to Daniel Jones, I would have just went and drafted another quarterback or traded for, Carr or Garoppolo or tried to convince Aaron Rodgers to come. I don't think paying Daniel Jones $40 million a year when he's throwing for what 16 touchdowns and 3,000 yards.
15
I mean,
touchdowns.
yeah, that's like backup numbers. That's not really a starter, but
We'll see. We'll see. You never know these days. But all right. So all right, Andrew, our time's kind of dwindling down now. Any final remarks?
oh man, you want to point me in a specific direction?
Just anything on your mind. Doesn't matter. Or anything to podcast people.
Well, since we started out with the Marine Corps, and it might have sounded like I was a little bit down on the Marine Corps, and for a while I was because I felt like I'd given so much to this organization, so much of my life and my time, And I didn't really feel like they were showing me that love back. And like I said, to the Marine Corps' detriment, they're kind of feeling the effects now with their recruiting. Although they're meeting their retention goals. Um, but I would say to anybody who joins, like if the vaccine thing doesn't bother you, it is a great place to get some life experience, and you meet the best friends of your life that you'll ever have. Uh, Kenny G being here, being one of mine. But I've been on all my stops. You make friends for life, and even if you don't talk to them for months or even years at a time, when you do get the chance to reconnect, it's like no time has passed at all. So I will say that the Marine Corps has been a great blessing on my life. It's been the means that I've provided for my family, and I do love it, and I will miss it whenever that time comes. Probably in the next 5 years here when I finally hang up those boots. But Kenny said a lot of nice things about me as far as being a leader and a mentor and all those kinds of things. And Sergeant Major Black said it today in that podcast that I was talking about from Barstool Sports. Number one thing is going to be the people and looking out for the people that work for you. And really, in effect, they don't work for you, you work for them. Because without them, without Kenny on that deployment, he was the one going out there and getting all the shots that we needed and doing all the interviews. And I was really just kicking back and watching him work and reaping in all the benefits from it. But he was recognized on that deployment more than once by our commanding officer, by visiting senior officers from all over for all the outstanding work that he did. So being being a leader, being a mentor comes down at the end of the day to taking care of your people, looking out for them, to giving a crap about their life and asking them, how are things going? Like what can I do to make your job easier? What can I do to help make us be more successful? And that's something that I always remember this story real quick before our time runs out. I checked into my first command. I was a little Lance Corporal, and it was our day to clean the heads, clean the bathrooms. And I get in there and I grab a paper towel and some Windex or whatever, and there's a sergeant with a broom sweeping the head. And I was like, wow, this guy's a sergeant. He's a supervisor. He doesn't have to be here, but he's here. So that always stuck with me. Getting in there with your guys and showing them that yes, you might be the one in charge, you might be the one calling the shots, but you can also work side by side. You're not going to ask them to do something that you're not willing to do yourself. So with that, thanks Kenny for having me on. I appreciate it. And anytime you need me to drop some little nuggets of wisdom or Marine Corpsisms or talk up the Chiefs, I'm here for you.
Of course, I know it's coming on you. All right, thank you, Andrew, again for your time being on here. Yeah, just goes to show that even I'm proud to be a honorary veteran now, and who knows, I might go back in, I might not, but we'll see. But I always commend you. Thank you for your service. Thank you to everyone who like gave their time, their service to defend like I honestly like one of the best country in the whole world. So again, thank you for all that you've done. Not just for me, but for the country, everything. Thank you.
Same to you, man. Thank you.
All right. All right, guys. Well, tune in next week. Give the page a follow, like, do what you gotta do, and see you next time.